Yeah, Jason, we
So
we
when
try and we try and be fussy at this group, but Tim somehow got in. I'm not sure how it happened.
Yeah, I would let Tim in. You know, when I rolled out these boot camps in 2019, the one and only that I did in Cape Town, because then some virus landed and everyone got scared. But Tim was my guest speaker. It's the one and only insane prospecting boot camp. Well,
That's
the one and only
right.
Cape Town one.
At that gorgeous
Only have one
venue
in Cape Town.
in Bishop's Court.
Jesus, nice, eh?
Yeah.
The Old
Well,
Mutual House.
Well, like if I look
Very-
at your
very
if I look
classy.
at your guys' hairstyles, I can see you spend time together.
We're twins.
Same barber.
And we have twins.
We have twins as well, yes. Yes, mine
We're
is just a
twins
little
and
older
we
than
have
yours
twins.
there.
A little bit. Yeah. When I was younger, with this little fringe, it was called the queef. I can't remember what the queef. I think it's an onomatopoeia for something that stands up, like it's a queef.
Right. When I was younger, I'd like
But you will
the
see
whole
me-
middle parting and the step. A good 1990s cut. Look terrible.
Oh, in lockdown, I had not the step. It started as the step, but then it became a severe undercut.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it.
I don't think my wife will ever
Because I
let me
just
go back
grew
in
it.
that direction.
Listen, hairdressers were not available, so I had my kids take my clippers and just go wild on the back and sides.
Nice. Nice. Awesome.
Marguerite, what is GTP?
General tax practitioner.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's
I
one
didn't
of
actually
the.
know it was a trademarked credential.
It's website. It's one of their trademark credentials. Yes.
Brilliant.
Okay, guys, I'm going to be a pain in the butt again. Can I ask that everyone just turn on their cameras briefly, except Simon? I know he's sick, just so Jason can see that he's not speaking to a whole lot of bots.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. You see, not just make believe. Hey, Simon is there.
So we're
Okay.
here to talk
I'm
about
here, yeah.
prospecting, and I'll certainly leave the introduction to Dirk. But this camera on, camera off discussion is a big one. Becky, hello, Becky. It's a big one.
Hi, Jason.
Within the
Are you gonna
within the theme.
tap me off as well?
I'm going to I'm going to leave it alone.
I'm assuming like you equally surprised I'm also in this group as Tim is, eh?
I'm not so surprised, but I can't give you a hard time. You were in corporate for a long time. I got to be gentle now.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
So this whole camera on, camera off, to me, is not even a debate anymore. It was a debate during lockdown era when we all went online. But it's not just about like, this is a meeting, like we're all sitting in a room. But what I came to learn through experience and discussion and debate over the years is that it's also about presence. And there's the psychology is that if your camera is off, you're simply not as present as when it's on. So there are reasons for it to be off. But if you're sitting in a room with me, would you be in the corner with your back to me?
No.
I mean, everyone that I'm looking at right now, you're so good looking. I just want to see you. I just want your cameras on. I just want to be able to look into your big blues and your big browns and speak with you. This is why Dirk's doing the intro.
Okay, I think Jason's done enough to introduce himself already. I think many of us have come across Jason in the industry. He's played various roles. Jason's been a client-facing planner for many years. I met him when he worked with Old Mutual Wealth as a coach. What was that called? I'm not sure what that actually was.
That was at the Access days before Old Mutual Wealth as a financial planning coach.
That's right. Okay. And as we know, Jason then left that, and he is a personal coach now. So he coaches people one-on-one, and he is also involved with F1 Consult, which he's done together with David Kopp, previously of the FBI. And Jason also ran, what did you call it? Your awesome prospecting or insane or
insane prospecting.
Okay. Yeah. So Jason, as I explained when we chatted before, this group consists of both new and fairly and very experienced people in the industry, in the profession, and the whole idea it was set up was really about lifestyle financial planning, to help people understand more about the way to do lifestyle planning, lifestyle financial planning the right way. Most of the group are client-facing and building businesses, either personally or within bigger organizations. And obviously, the age-old question is, where do we find clients? So we've touched on this a few times, and I thought, yeah, it would be good to have a session where we focus very much on that. And I believe you probably one of the local experts in this. So that's why I've asked you. I know you've got an hour for us, so I'll hand over to you. And I know you've prepared something. Go for it, buddy.
Thanks, Dirk. Thank you. I've probably just got a little bit over an hour, and then I have to go vote for myself for the school governing body. I've put up my hand for that this year. Let's see how that goes. And your introduction of F1 Consult just makes me realize that the logo is all wrong. It's FI Consult, and I know the I looks like a 1. So we'll rebrand. At some stage, we'll rebrand, but it's Financial Institution Consulting. So good morning, everyone. I'm just having a look. We've got 26 people and a few more coming in. That's great. Thanks for taking the time to be here. I know that I was in one way or another on the agenda and you still came, so I'm really grateful for that. I hope to add as much value as I can without taking it's 27 module course and putting it into an hour, without taking a 10-hour boot camp and putting it into an hour. So the question is, how can I add prospecting value to you in such a short amount of time? Because it's not really possible to just come onto a call for anywhere between an hour and a half and walk away and your prospecting lives will change. Every time I say prospecting to a new audience or in front of a new person, I am very conscious of the word. I know that it triggers some people are sensitive to it. And Kobus Klein and I, in the beginning, actually had a deep debate around the word prospecting. And I know that its origins go back to gold panning. And I myself, when creating the prospecting brand, had to think very deeply about using it. And you know what, it's generic. It's simply that. It's about going out there and getting in front of potential new clients. And whether you call it prospecting or something else, I think what we need to understand is that it's just the word that denotes the intention, and that's it. So Intent Prospecting was the brand that was created behind all of this. Okay, before I go into any kind of a sermon, I just want to ask, are there any begging questions up front? So in other words, if you reflect on where you are in your career or in your business, and you look back at where you came from, and then you look forward and you think about the business you're building or the book you're building or client base or whatever it is, when you overlay that with new business development, new client acquisition, do you have any begging questions? And I want to take notes of those questions now and up front. So, and I'm going to write them down and keep them in front of me. And I want to try and ensure to the best of my ability that I can answer those questions as we go, so that it's not just a presentation. It is more than that. It actually speaks to you. Anything. You're welcome to put it in the chat. Do we have a chat? You're welcome to speak up. There's the chat. Let me open this. Dirk, may I ask then that that as we go, you keep your eye on the chat, and if I miss something, you just alert me to it. That'd be okay?
Sure.
Cool, thanks. All right, so as we go, you may have an idea that pops into your head, may trigger a thought, just raise it. I'd rather have you leave feeling satisfied than have you leave with the question that's unanswered. Okay, I know that one of the worst ways to start any presentation is to talk about oneself. I'm a big advocate of not talking about myself, but when it comes to prospecting, I do tell a little bit of a story, because I like to relate to my audience because I've been there. I'm not coming from a point where I experienced massive success in financial planning and I'm going to tell you how to do it. I experienced a journey, and the journey was very, very difficult at the beginning. I got into the industry in 2003. I joined Sage Life. Some of you might remember Sage. It was bought by Momentum in 2005. But in 2003 to 2005, I was with Sage Life. And I still remember the very beginning, 2 weeks of product training. That's all it was, 2 weeks of product training before I was sent on my merry way to go and get clients. And at the end of the first month, this was October 2003, I owed Sage 450 Rand for parking because I hadn't sold anything, but I'd been parking in the underground parking and I had to pay for it. It was very disconcerting. I had no network. I was 26 years old. I wasn't the most confident of people. I certainly didn't have the gift of the gab, and I was by no means a salesperson. It was very difficult for me. So the transaction with Momentum went through, and I moved over to Momentum, and then I moved to HSBC. And from one to the other, from Sage to Momentum to HSBC, things happened, and I had to find my way at each one of them. And at Sage, I went to head office. It was still this 20-story building downtown Johannesburg. And I walked from floor to floor to floor, trying to meet people that I thought could help. And I happened to meet the person that was key in the call center at that time. I could actually, there weren't any card swipes or glass doors or anything. I met the person that was in charge of leads that came in from the call center. And I met with her in person regularly. And I started to get a number of leads coming through to me. You get the bad with the good. But I dealt with those, and I started to build a bit of a book based on those leads. And that was okay for a time. Then I went over to Momentum, and I continued with that for as long as I could. But, with transactions, people leave. And the thing that made the biggest difference at Momentum was a friend came to work with me there. And he was a very competitive guy, competitive in all walks of life, competitive in sports, in business, in hobbies, in conversations. He was just that kind of guy, very driven. Very successful in business, by the way, nowadays. And he and I decided that we are going to compete for appointments. So we had, if I remember correctly, it was about 2 hours, 2 mornings a week. And we grabbed those big, thick business directories and we've got a phone on the desk and we just made calls. And we had a jar and you put money in the jar. Remember that old school way of doing things. And at the end of the week, whoever had the most appointments, not did the most calls, but had the most appointments, because that's the outcome, got the money in the jar. And it was a few hundred Rand. It was significant. And that's what started getting me even more clients. I got some funds. I think when I left Momentum, I had about 5 pension funds or Providence, whatever they were then. And that started getting me going. And then at HSBC, look, I left Momentum for very specific reasons because I was in this, I'm just going to speak very candidly. I hope you don't mind. I was stuck in this insurance world where we sold product for commission, and I didn't want to do it anymore. So I started looking at UK and Australian companies where I knew they were doing things for fees and they were more client-driven and centric, and ended up going to HSBC where we had a structure that supported new business development. Like we had a business development person, and it was very difficult in this country because we didn't have a license. Everything got looped through Jersey and the Channel Islands. So we had to be clever and creative, but we did have a business development person that did a very good job. But then we also had the structure where we as wealth managers worked with relationship managers, which were effectively banking people. And the team worked very well. We set up presentations to professionals. Like I remember on many occasions, we addressed doctors. We got into these meetings that specialist physicians would have. We literally only had 5 minutes. That's all they would give us. But we did what we could to blow their minds in 5 minutes. And that doesn't sound good. Like, what are you going to do to blow their minds? To differentiate us from the policy selling, commission-driven smokers out there. And that's how we got people's attention. And there was a lot more to it, but it made a big difference. And then in my own personal capacity, and to an extent with my colleagues, I started doing things differently to the extent that, and again, I'm telling you this so that you can relate, not because I want to blow my own trumpet, but in my early 30s, I was building a book at 100 million Rand a year, and I was earning around, at the peak then, before I left HSBC, around 150,000 Rand a month. So do a little time value of money calculation, go backwards. That's a significant amount of money for a guy in his early 30s. And I really attribute a lot of that to having a plan and a process and taking action. Prospecting for most people is difficult. We get in our own way. We hide behind a laptop. We hide behind a desk. We create fears that don't even exist on top of fears that do exist. For most people, it is tough. But what I find, and I speak to no one in this group, absolutely, but what I find is that the fear holds us back to such an extent that we are in inaction. Not only we're in inaction around actually doing the thing, but we're in action around creativity, around planning, around whatever we need to do in the background so that we can support what we do in the foreground. So then just a quick summary of what happened after that was HSBC pulled out of South Africa. I saw it coming. I left, and there was this business called Axis that was building effectively a consultancy into independent financial planning businesses. And they were building a team of financial planning coaches, business consultants, and practice management consultants. And HSBC had a big coaching culture. I thought it'd be very cool to go in and embrace this and form part of this team and become a financial planning coach. And I did that, and that's where I met Dirk. And I met a lot of individuals like Dirk that think like Dirk. They were lifestyle financial planners. They were fee-based, or they were on their way to becoming fee-based. They were incredibly client-centric. And even through all of this, the question that I heard the most often was, how do I get in front of potential new clients? So Axis was bought by Old Mutual and then formed part of Old Mutual Wealth. And then I went across to that. And the question continued as I started to work with these guys. So when I left to start a coaching company in 2019, within that company, I didn't want to lose touch with my relationship with the financial planning profession. And I wanted to help in the best way that I could. So I started this brand called Insane Prospecting, and it began with the prospecting boot camps. And then it became an online course. And then it became a webinar that ran for a year and a half. And then it became a mini boot camp, and so on and so on. It still exists. The brand has just been dropped, and all the content has been absorbed into the consultancy now. All right, so this is where I am, and I'm not going into exactly what I'm doing and how I'm doing it now. Just know that all of the IP still exists and is available. But I'm here today to talk to you about prospecting and help you with prospecting. And if I've got something prepared, I don't have a script, I have a guideline just to remind me to tell you certain things. And if there's anything that comes to mind, again, please remember that the invitation is to interrupt and ask me questions. We've got 40 minutes from now. I can go over a little bit before I have to go vote at the school. Okay. So I'll also encourage you to take notes, because there may be something that stands out to you. And again, what can I do for you in an hour and a bit? I can get you thinking. That's what I can do. I can get you thinking. Hopefully, I can provide you with some insights, and together, insights and thinking can hopefully motivate you enough to move into action around your own business development. But you might want to take notes so that you don't forget anything. I'm going to move at pace. Okay. Let's first start with some facts. Some real hard facts. The first fact is that clients don't line up at your door. I don't know if you've realized this. No matter who you are or how hard you've tried or whatever it is, clients do not line up at your door. You can read, well, I'm forgetting the name of the book, The Power of Attraction. What's that book? You can read it, but clients are still not going to line up at your door. I have the book, by the way, and I've read it a few times. They don't line up. The second is that promises are cheap. So whether the business is promising you leads, or your clients are promising you referrals, or you've got someone at a call center promising you leads, or someone told you they're going to build the best social media campaign for you in the world, and it's going to be so bespoke and so directed toward financial planning and your business and your value prop, you can't necessarily rely on it. At the same time, leads are light. So we've got all these lead generation campaigns and ideas and strategies, but leads are generally light, even if you have a relationship with a lead provider. The next thing is hopes and prayers do not work. You can hope and pray as much as you want. And even if you're a religious person and you reference the book, you know that you have to help yourself, right? So another fact that we may want to pay some attention to is that centers of influence, when worked correctly, are brilliant. But they hardly ever work. And there are very specific reasons for them not working, and there are very specific strategies to allow them to work and serve you with potential introductions. All right, so if you want a center of influence strategy as part of your business development plan, that's no problem, but you have to extrapolate the strategy and work it properly. I'm not going to go into the detail of it. Point is, it can work, but it doesn't always work. The next fact, and this is probably the biggest one that I want to put forward, is that cold calling sucks. In this day and age, you are competing with every rubbish advisor and business out there that hires rubbish people to make calls. All right. So even if you're hiring someone, that person is competing with other cold callers. In my very strong opinion, cold calling is not a strategy. I mean, it is a strategy. It's not an effective one. It's a spray and pray strategy. And even if it works, you're probably not getting the clients you want. All right. It can work, and it does work for some people, but I would caution you to embrace it as a core strategy. And at the same time, buying leads. You know, when you go to the lead providers and you pay them 3,000 Rand for 10 leads, so you're spending 300 Rand leads. So it makes sense if you get 3,000 Rand commission, because then it's a good investment. I caution you. There's a 10% success rate on average. And that's not because of you, it's because of them. Go and check out their companies in most cases. Go and have a look at where they're working from. Go and have a look at where those databases are from. See if it aligns with Poppy. It can work, but again, not a core strategy. And just be very, very careful with who you work. You're largely on your own. You're largely on your own. Even if you work for an organization that says, we have a brand and we have a strategy and we're going to give you leads, you're largely on your own. Even if you are getting leads, is what you do with those leads. I worked with a listed company, and I have been working with them for almost 3 years now. We did a massive project on leads because they have 13 sources of leads, 13 sources, and most of those leads are lost. In other words, they get the lead, they give it to the financial advisor, and it's lost. And you cannot go back to that lead if it's lost, because you got one chance. And maybe one or two others. The next is you have to do the work. With the emphasis on the work, it takes work. Building a book, there's a selling function to this. You know, your service is financial planning, but you got to sell financial planning. You got to sell your product, which is your service. And you have to do the work. Two more. Apathy is a problem. I mean, just look at us in the election year. And we're expecting so many non-voters because of voter apathy. But apathy in the workplace in general in South Africa, especially, I'm just familiar with South Africa, is very high. We've got a high rate of apathy. And in fact, in an engagement, a worldwide survey done on engagement, we measured it in 3 respects. It's an employee engagement survey. Employees are engaged, employees are somewhat disengaged, and employees are 100% disengaged. South Africa was 91% combination, actively disengaged and disengaged. In other words, they go to work to get a paycheck. So this is not unique to the financial planning profession at large. I'm not talking about anyone here, but at large. So apathy is a problem, and fear, particularly of rejection, is a massive stumbling block. Okay, the good news though, despite all my disheartening facts, the good news is that it is not actually that difficult to develop new business, to acquire new clients. It's not that difficult. There are ample opportunities out there, and there is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, I guarantee you, enough business for everyone. Because I often hear, oh, like it's saturated. It's not. It's not saturated. Okay, not the bottom end where you're selling like 300 Rand life insurance policies, or the top end where you're selling 100 million Rand investments, or the professional end where you're doing financial plans and charging for them. It is not saturated. You can also have fun, and at the same time, believe it or not, you can build a business and make money while having fun. I know someone whose business strategy is to meet fun and interesting people, and I know someone else whose business strategy is to have fun in this industry. There are, however, prerequisites to this. Very serious prerequisites. And if you're not serious about building a business, you're going to struggle with prospecting because there's the symbiotic relationship between those two and many other things. So you got to have the knowledge. Like, you know, you're not going to go sell surgery if you're not a surgeon, right? You're not going to sell your art if you are not a good artist. I'm looking at that artwork behind Shannon. That's what gave me the idea of the example. You have to have knowledge. If you're not a financial planner, it's going to be hard to sell financial planning. And I'm not even talking about like levels of skill and knowledge. Yes, you ideally want to be a CFP, but if you're starting out, you don't need to be. You can work under someone's wing. You can be a paraplanner, an article planner. You can learn as you go. You can have people assisting you. A lot of businesses have amazing support. The next prerequisite is that you have to have a desire to be in this profession, to build a business, to be successful in this profession, not in any other profession, but in this profession, along with the drive to do it. Because you can have all the desire in the world. Russell, biceps. He's not doing it, I suppose. There we go. You've got to have the drive. You can have the desire and no drive, and you can have the drive and no desire. You're going to be stuck. And there's got to be, I did a presentation a number of years ago on how to build a R1 billion business. And I interviewed, I think it was 11, because it sounded better than 10, financial planners with R1 billion books, and asked them that question: what does it take? And the answers were so simple. And one of the answers that stood out to me, and I still think about it all the time, is you got to have, I want to do it the other way around. You got to like people, because you're working with people. If you don't like people, you're dead in the water. And the other is, you have to have belief in the markets. If you don't trust that the markets will deliver, how can you go and put someone's 10 million Rand in the markets? Okay, and it's debatable what markets are now. Like, you know, is it traditional? Is it Bitcoin? What is it? But you have to have a belief that where you're putting your client's money will deliver. So a creed is actually a business. Who owns it, Dirk? You probably know Wealth Creed. Someone we know owns Wealth Creed. Anyway, a creed is a system of belief like faith, right? And I believe, and this is through all of the work that I've done in prospecting, and this is not just financial planning, this is any industry, is that prospecting is not just about what to do. It's about who you are and how you show up in front of potential clients. Tim might remember this from the boot camp. I'm going to say it again. Prospecting is not just about what you need to do. It's about who you are and how you show up in front of potential clients. Because even if everything you do is in the background, digital, for example, you still have to show up in front of another human being, virtual or in person. And if you're weird and strange and desperate and needy, it's possible that you won't get the potential client as a client. So we're going to concentrate on today less on who you are, because that's a big component, and as important as it is. In the boot camp, I divide into half. Boot camp, I go half the day, at least the full day boot camp. I go half the day is working on you. The second half of the day is building a strategy and a plan. But I'm going to work, it's going to be less of who you are today and more on the doing. Okay. But I can't leave it alone altogether because it's too important. So consider, and this is where you might want to take some notes if you haven't already. And I'm still going to fly through this because, and it's being recorded, I see. So there's always that option as well. So consider the relationships you have with yourself. Remember, I'm a coach, guys. So my approach to everything is coaching. And I'm not just like a coach. I didn't put my name on a wall after going on a weekend course. I've studied for years and I'm certified, credentialed, accredited, all of that stuff, like a good financial planner. So it's a relationship you have with yourself, as well as the relationship you have with others, be it any people that have anything to do with your life or your world. It's also the relationships that you have with, for example, your clients and your potential clients and your colleagues, and the relationship you have with the financial planning profession and technology. All of those relationships are integral to your success in building a financial planning business. All of them. You have relationships with people, things, and whatever else. You can have relationships with things like technology. What is your relationship with artificial intelligence, with Chat GPT? What is your relationship with speaking to audiences? If it's bad, then that might be a problem if your strategy is one-to-many in person. We could spend a lot of time on this, and in certain content we do, but I'm going to move on. Also, in addition to your relationships, your mindset. Your mindset is incredibly important because you have to have the right mindset going into building and developing a prospecting strategy. And in inverted commas, getting out there and getting in front of potential new clients so that you can sell yourself and your business, so that you can add value to their lives and make a difference to their families and anyone connected with their financial planning. But your mind has to be right. You have to be in the right frame of mind. And we can delve deeply into this. For example, what side of the bed do you get out of in the morning? One hack is just push the bed against the wall, and then you don't have a choice but to get out on the other side. But we choose. We choose our mindset. And by the way, I don't feel like it. How you feel is made up. How you feel is based on your thoughts. Your feelings are based on your thoughts, which are all made up. It's all you. The next is your attitude to everyone, the people that you work with, your clients, potential clients, and so on. Your attitude to hard work, which I'm finding less and less and less nowadays. I don't know if you're seeing it as well, but like maybe certain generations, I don't know, whatever it is. I just find that hard work isn't what it used to be. And building a business of any sort, in any profession, in any industry, requires hard work. And for different people, hard work is different things. But prospecting to build a book of new clients, or even expanding your book, deepening value with existing clients in financial planning, takes hard work. It doesn't, and hard work doesn't mean 18-hour days. It means hard work. Define it for yourself. It's also your attitude to sales, the acceptance that we are selling. We are selling. I'm a coach. I'm other things too, but I'm a consultant. I sell consulting. I sell coaching. You sell. This is often a trick question. I ask advisors what they sell. And I still hear things like, I sell dreams. You don't. You sell advice. You sell advice. And you have to sell it. Because if you're not selling, you're not building. And maybe the last thing that I would consider in terms of an attitude is to learning, because this profession requires ongoing learning, and you have to be willing to continue to stack knowledge. And they're great opportunities. There's learning all around us all the time, from conferences to books to people. There's so much. Don't let it be so overwhelming that you forget to go out there and sell, but be learning. In terms of who you are, maybe 2 or 3 more things I want to mention briefly. One is how you are received and perceived. In other words, when you do show up in front of a potential client, how are you seen? Do you dress properly? Do you speak properly? Are you well-mannered? How do you speak? Even if you speak from the ghetto with your friends, you got to ask yourself whether that's the right way to speak when you're in front of a potential new client. I worked, maybe 1 or 2 examples. I worked with a woman for a while who always had her sunglasses on her head. And I had to mention to her once that it always looked like she was on her way out. And I wasn't necessarily right. It was an observation to which she agreed. But one other thing with her is that she was like, I think a lot of us are, where she would draw pictures and she would direct her client's eyes with her pen down to the paper. But her nails were always undone. So she had done her nails, but she hadn't kept up. So it was like a manicure from 2 months before. And this is what the guy was seeing, or the woman was seeing, the client was seeing. So maybe a man's version of that would be grease under the fingernails because he works on his car over the weekend. So would your client notice that type of stuff, or would they not? You have to decide. Is it important to you in terms of how you show up in front of your potential clients or not? There's the old, like, what pen should I use? What watch should I wear? If I wear a watch, what car should I drive? All good debates. Some are not necessary, like the car thing might not be necessary. And if you drive a crappy old car, park around the corner or have a virtual call. But just bring it to front of mind, the question of who am I? How do I show up? How do people perceive me, receive me? And who do I want to be, which I'll bring in a little bit more just now. First impressions are real. And you have a very, very short time frame to create that first impression. The good news is that you can repair it over time. So maybe you didn't dress so well, but, maybe your shoes were dirty because you were at a building site before you went to the client meeting and you forgot to dust them down. But if you still have a meeting with the client will reform an impression as time goes on. And then you might want to ask yourself, what is professional? Like, for you and for the clients that you work with, what is professional? If you are working with farmers in the middle of nowhere versus working with a stockbroker in the middle of Sandton, professional will be two very different things, okay, in terms of the visual and who you are. So I want to share a concept with you very quickly. Your goals are so much closer than you think. So if you imagine how you've been pursuing certain goals for whatever period of time, you might be aware that you hit brick walls all the time, or you hit glass ceilings or whatever it is, and you really just want to punch through that wall or the ceiling because you know your goal is just on the other side. So still working on who am I and how do I show up? Do this as an exercise. Ask yourself, who do I want to be? In terms of the financial planner that you want to be, who do you want to be? And sketch the best financial planning or prospecting version of yourself. Maybe focus on prospecting. Sketch the best prospecting version of yourself. Go into absolute detail on the characteristics of who you want to and or need to be to prospect. One quick example is like energized, because maybe you wake up in the morning and you're depleted. And then once you understand who that person is, use that as a place to come from. So in coaching, we speak about who you are versus who you want to be. And then we talk about collapsing space and time and showing up as that person now. And this is where we then overlay that with your goals are so much closer than you think, because it's about showing up as who you need to be now, not in 5 years. If you know that you want to build a particular business in 5 years, who do you need to be to build that business? Who is that person in 5 years? Understand that person, bring him or her into the now, be that person, and use those characteristics and that attitude and that all of that as a place to come from. Show up as that person today so that you can build the business of your dreams today. Okay, why wait? Let's move on to what you need to do. So we've been talking about who you are. Now we're going to talk about what you need to do, which is always the begging question. Yes, but how do I prospect? What do I need to do? We're there. There are a few things that you need, and a lot of these are a piece of work on themselves, a lot of these. But put the pieces of the puzzle together and you're welcome to reach out if you need help. The first is that you need a value proposition, okay? You know this. You need a value proposition. If you don't have it, what are you selling? You can call it whatever you want, an elevator pitch, like whatever. Anything you want. I mean, the value proposition is the big piece of work. The elevator pitch is, how do I communicate what I do to a potential client within a few floors of riding an elevator in a building? You got 30 seconds. You're sitting next to someone at a wedding. They go, what do? You got 30 seconds. But it's all based on the value proposition. And there are lots of ways to work it out. And your businesses, if big, probably have a lot of collateral for you to work with. And if your businesses are small or you're a one-person band, go Google it. There is so much content out there. I'm even happy to share some with you. You can start with like, I am ... Trying to think of the order I used to do this. Oh no, I am, I do, so that. That's the simplest way you can do this. And then you can think of things like, if you're sitting in front of a potential new client, this is a little bit about me, a little bit about my business. This is what I do, how I do it, and how I charge. You got those things, those 5 things down. You can start to extrapolate that into like the tech we use, the process, and everything. Stories about clients, but it's value proposition. But you have to know, you have to have the big value prop so that you can communicate it in a short amount of time and have a hook and get people's attention. The second is a target market, because if you're just sitting with a value prop, it doesn't help. You got to take it to a market, and you got to know who that market is. And I've accepted over the years that you don't have to build an avatar and that has to be your one ideal client and that's all you do. You could have an ideal client and you can have an immediate / cash flow client while you build your business. The ideal client is how you want to build your business, like the 25-year plan or vision, or even 10 years. But right now, maybe you're new to the profession and you want to build a book. So it's okay if you get a 500 Rand life insurance policy. And even notice how I'm speaking. I even hesitate because of product sales, but it's okay as long as it's satisfying the need for that person. So you can have a 2-tiered strategy, ideal and immediate, until you build that book of ideal clients, and then you can start tapering away from the immediate or cash flow clients, the ones that help you live every month. But you've got to have a target market, even if it's temporary. Like, you may be part of some kind of club or society, but know where you're going to find your clients. All right. The next thing is a formula that I came up with within Insane Prospecting. Write this down. This is the formula for prospecting for financial planners. It is, and again, I'm just giving you the formula. There's lots of work to do below this. It is approach, connect, invite. It goes in a circle. Approach, connect, invite. Approach, connect, invite. The approach is the strategy. The approach is the strategy. When Insane Prospecting launched, I launched 101 strategies over 15 different categories. It didn't take me long to come up with that. When the webinar was going, in the first year and a half, we came up with an additional 70 strategies. So in a year and a half, maybe a bit more, there were 171 plus ways of getting in front of potential new clients. The truth and reality is that you will only use 1, 2, or 3. Ultimately, only 1. But you'll only use 1, 2, or 3. If you want to play with this, not now, but in your own time, think about 5 ideas that you've had for getting new clients. 5 ideas that you've had, whether you have pursued them or not. Okay? 5 ideas you've had, whether you pursued them or not. Then, in addition, think of 5 things that you've done, whether they have worked or not. 5 things that you've done, whether they have worked or not. And once you've done this exercise, sit back and look at that piece of paper. And in front of you, you've got 10 prospecting strategies. You do this in a room of 10 people. You've got 50 prospecting strategies. Maybe there'll be an overlap. So let's halve that. You've got 25 prospecting strategies in an exercise done in a room of 10 people in 15 minutes at the most. So it's not hard to come up with ideas. What people find difficult is actioning the ideas, because that's when we get in our own way. That's when our fears get in our way. So that's strategy. Connecting is the need to connect with other human beings. And I really do encourage everyone who struggles with this to practice it everywhere. Not with the absolute intention of landing a client everywhere, but for the sake of purely connecting with people. Just connect. Connect with the guy in the car next to you. Yes, through 2 open windows. Connect at the person standing in the Woolies line. Connect with the colleague at your office who you only say hello to and goodbye to every day. Connect with people everywhere all the time. Get curious. Ask them questions about their lives. Find them mysterious. Take a moment and just sit down or stand there. Don't be in a rush to move past. Could be a gardener or a maid in your building. It could be the chief financial officer of the auditing firm next door to you. Just connect with other human beings, because if you're not in practice around connection, you will find prospecting more difficult, because prospecting, as you know, requires a strategy, and then it requires you to speak to other human beings. The third is invite, which is effectively what I call conversational bridges, where you might start off, like, imagine you're a social butterfly and you're really good at connecting with people and engaging them in conversation and having some chit chat. But at some stage, you want to shift that chit chat from, or you want to shift the conversation from some casual chit chat over to something more business orientated. And a lot of people struggle with that. You know, I don't want to ruin the moment by getting all serious and asking them if they want to be a client of mine. So there's a skill to bridging the conversation, and it's really just it's really setting up the conversation to move it in the direction of financial planning. And you can do that so easily because financial planning has to do with people's lives. So while you're connecting with them and getting curious and finding them mysterious, you start to ask questions that have something to do with financial planning or money. And by the way, everything has to do with financial planning or money, because everything can be monetized. So, you know, you could be talking to them about their kids and the cost of education. And then you say something like, wow, you know, that's amazing. I would love to support you with that. There's the bridge. Or, geez, you know, you're my kind of client. What about if I told you more about how I help individuals to create and protect their wealth? Or, I love that approach. In fact, I suspect that you and I could work very well together. I'd love to buy you a coffee later this week and we can chat about it. Or this is exactly what I work with. I wonder if I can help you. Maybe one more. That's actually what so many of my clients are dealing with. Would you like to have a conversation about that in more detail? That's the bridge. That's the bridge. And there's an art to bridging the conversation. Do we have any questions? Okay, I'm going to go on. Dirk, you'll let me know, hey?
Jason,
right.
there are some. Ben asked about niching or not niching. Becky, I'll just put them out there. Well, you can have a look at them yourself. They're in the chat section. It's really just those.
Cool.
Those two. At the moment.
I got the chat up. Let's see. So the Americans call niching niching, and they say the riches are in the niches. I think ultimately, so there are two approaches to this. You can niche now or you can niche later, but you're going to niche. So when I speak about the ideal client, I mean, that's like the textbook version, right? I'm going to build my avatar and I'm going to pursue that avatar. I want to know the demographics and the psychographics of this person. That's how specific you want to get. But if you're starting off, you don't have to niche. You can like know what your ideal client is, but get anyone on board as long as you're doing them a service and there's reciprocal value. But what you'll find is as you build your business, you almost naturally start to niche. All right, so ultimately you'll niche, but there are two approaches. What's more effective, old school referral model, as you will build your brand or other invest in digital world? Both. So, you know, if you can do both, great. There are financial advisors that have the website, the landing page, the social media marketing campaign, the retargeting funnel system, and it works. I know a 65-odd-year-old who has too much business right now because in the last 2 years, he created a digital marketing strategy. So it can work, but you still got to get in front of human beings and have conversations. You still got to connect and be able to bridge and so on. So that's where old school approach is always good. Old school referral model is a strategy. So digital marketing is a strategy. Referral model is a strategy. But what referral model is it? Are you asking existing clients? Do you have centers of influence? Are you going to friends and family? So they all work, but you need to pick 1, 2, or 3 and get granular about it, become obsessed with it, become immersive. You got to build a strategy with the strategy. Whatever you pick will work, as long as it's not absolutely ridiculous. It will work. But you've got to walk, talk, think, breathe, live the strategy. Thanks, Tim. Cool.
Jason,
Shannon.
Jason, I'll let Shannon in now. Just back on the niche thing. The issue I have with it is that so a lot of the people, on this call have access, through LinkedIn and everything to really, really top planners around the world, and a lot of people who tell people what to do who don't actually do what we do. So they don't make the living like we make the living, but they've got all the solutions. And I'm not saying that you're one of those because you've done the job. And the problem I have around niching is that, having done this for 30 years, is I think people tend to see a niche as a very, very narrow thing, where I think when you're starting off, two things you need to understand is a niche can firstly just be people who can actually pay you. So,
Exactly.
if you're going to go out there and save the world, if you're going to put yourself in a community where that is unable to pay you, no matter what you do, you're not going to get paid. Okay. So first of all, you've got to fish where the fish are. It's pointless fishing in a dead dam. And secondly, the so-called niche will change as your career grows, as it proceeds. So initially it could be the old test, like the mirror test, anyone with a breath, that could be your niche. Anyone with a breath who could pay you. But as you get better at what you do and you understand where your skill lies and the kind of people that you like to deal with, it will narrow down, and you will then hopefully. But I'm very concerned that a lot of newcomers into the industry think that they've got to choose this absolute niche. And I know it can work for some, but it generally works for people who are older entering the industry, just because they have a little bit more self-confidence, and also they already have certain communities that they are established in. Whereas you're a youngster coming out of varsity, you may even be living in a city that you didn't grow up, so you don't really know anyone. You may not play cricket or football or rugby and be part of a club, so you don't know anyone. And especially in the world today, where so many people spend a lot of their lives online and not actually face to face with people. So yeah, I just wanted to comment on that.
Yep. Some very good points there. Thanks, Dirk.
Okay, Shannon.
Great, thanks. I just want to take a step back in terms of the approach, connect, and the invite. For me, have no problem coming up with strategies, have no problem with connecting. My big problem is actually inviting the people in. To me, that comes across as being smosey, and it's always been a weakness for me. I find I can go out there, I can open the door, but I don't invite people in. And that's kind of a barrier that I've always had. What are your thoughts on that? How do you get past that?
Oh, Shannon, when I was in my mid to late 20s, I told you I started when I was 26. Insurance company, I was told that every single person out there is a potential client. That was the draw card, right? That was the lure. Like, the world is your oyster. There's no limit to how much money you could make. And I sat at dinner tables and I couldn't relax because there was a friend of a friend, and I had to have that person as a client. And I put so much pressure on myself, and it actually worked against me because the psychology of it was bad. I couldn't enjoy myself. I became obsessed. It just everything about it didn't work for me. So there are, and I want to bring something up. Okay, I've got it here. So for a lot of people, advisors who, let's stick with the word prospecting, financial advisors who want to try and generate new business get stuck in certain areas. Sometimes it is prospecting at large. Sometimes it's certain areas within prospecting, like walking up to someone or calling someone or bridging the conversation, the invitation, or sometimes it's actually closing the deal. So they've done all the work, but they struggle to ask for the sale because it's too salesy. In the end, the reality is that we have to ask for the sale. In your case, in this question, we have to ask for the appointment. And there's so many ways of bridging it, very directly or very subtly. So if I look at the document, so the content of this course, I'm actually going to read you what it says over here. And by the way, Dirk, I can go to the school later, so I can carry on if everyone is keen that because I've still got yep, I'm going to carry on. Okay, so the bridge is what moves the conversation from one place to another, and as a result, it's where many advisors get stuck, even if they have the approach and the connection down to a T. Shifting the conversation from casual inquiry to serious business is often uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be. There are conversational bridges to remove much of the discomfort, and I'm going to skip. You have already built the foundation without being consciously aware of it. And this is just by entering into a conversation with someone. You've got foundation off of which you can work. Through having strategies that you can lean on and to get in front of people, you will find yourself speaking with many new prospects. Through connection, your genuine curiosity around what is happening, real and important to these potential clients, is your perfect bridge to invite them into a new conversation. And that's the point, Shannon, is that your approach, or at least my nudge is to approach things differently. And if you don't have new business development in mind, if you don't have client acquisition in mind, when you're sitting next to someone at a wedding and you start talking, you think this could be a potential client. Like, this is my kind of client. I would really love to have a business conversation with this person. But often we keep the conversation at distantly chit chat. Maybe that's not the right description. We keep it very casual, but we have to manipulate it. We can't bridge it if we don't manipulate it. We have to take it in a direction. Because if we're only talking about rugby, how do we then bridge it to business? But if we're talking about rugby and his kid who went to CARES, and the guy, maybe he needs a scholarship, and then it becomes about money, then you start getting into the conversation around that. And you can ask, like, you can even, get a bit personal. Like, I don't mean to get personal, if you don't mind, like, how would you afford that? And then you go into, I had a client just like that about 3 years ago. Very similar problem. You tell the problem, and this is how I helped him, incredibly briefly without giving anything away. If you would be interested, this is what I do. If you would be interested in speaking to me about it, let me give you a call on Monday and we'll set up a time. Okay. So as long as you're in sales, which is what all of us are, including me, we have to move the conversation in a direction. So I might be speaking about financial planning and I want to kind of wrap it with money, or wrap the thing around money. I want to go there somehow. But again, remember that life is money. Any single goal that a client comes up with can be monetized. Any single goal, except maybe self-actualization, but almost everything else. Even if I'm speaking to someone about potentially executive coaching, I'm going to understand who the person is, the business they have, the people they employ, their C-suite of executives. I'm going to understand as much of that as I can. And then I'm going to ask a question like, how do you support your people? And then we'll have a conversation about that. And I'll go, okay, that's very interesting. One of the things I do is, would this be of interest to you? So I get how it can be uncomfortable, but you've got to go there. If you don't go there, you're going to lose that person. And then the other financial advisor is going to go there at the other table at the same wedding. Dirk?
Yeah, Jason. So I'm going to say this because I think if it'll relate. I think a lot of people in the room would be uncomfortable with that approach, because it is salesy. It's like deliberate, okay, and me currently being in a smaller community where I've been for a period of 3 years now and kind of know people. And what I really believe is because people aren't gonna just say, like, what do you do? Well, I'm a financial planner. They aren't gonna say, gee, wow, I've never met one of those. Like, let's talk about it. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. In fact, most people would like hold up a cross and run the other way because of the industry. We're aware of this. That's why it's so hard.
History.
Yeah. Well, the reality. And I really, you spoke earlier on about believing in what we do, and I've said this to the group, is I really believe that if we really deeply we love what we do and really believe in the value that we can help, that we can deliver to people, and how we can actually help people, if we're really passionate deeply about that, that will come across in how we speak to people. Because I think ultimately people are going to buy you. They're not going to buy the 5 degrees you've got or the posters or our salesman of the year. And I know you're not saying that, but I really believe, I mean, people say, what do you do? And yeah, and you know what, I can go, I'm a lifestyle planner. I'm a financial planner. That's what I say. And very often I'll change the subject, almost take them away from that, and rather just build rapport about the rugby or the cricket or the golf, or build rapport, because the chances are that if someone gets to know me, and I will ask them questions about themselves, but not from an insurance or investment viewpoint. I like ask about their kids or their wife, or because when people, when you show interest in people, it works. People like to be asked about themselves, because then they talk about themselves. So I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying for some people, they will find it very salesy to kind of ask a question about, like, how do you look after your people, or how do you afford to send your kids to that school? In other words, what do you do? But so I'm just saying I think there are different ways of doing this, but I really want to just reiterate that if you don't believe in what you do, there's always chat around fees, and I put something on this group, on the WhatsApp group yesterday, because there's the old chat about AUM versus flat fee or whatever. But if you really believe in what you do and you believe what you're worth, then that's it, and people can actually feel that. So sorry, just a comment on that.
Absolutely. And Dirk, I know you well enough to understand the heartfelt passion behind statements like that. I have to laugh, or I had to laugh when you said you kind of say what you do and then you run away. It's like, I so don't want to be salesy that I'm going to tell you what I do and then we're going to talk about anything but that. I honestly, because I'm not a natural born salesman, it's very hard for me. And I remember once when we had networking meetings, I literally stood at the door to the room, counted to 3, and then said go, and I walked up and I introduced myself to someone. And then I hit a dead end, and I'd have to leave the room, and I'd have to go and eat something and sit and breathe and then go and do it again. To this day, it's still unnatural for me. So I want to say 2 things. The first is that different advisors are in different stages of their business, and that's a big thing. So if you are building a business from scratch, or even if it's a small business that you would like to grow at whatever rate you want to grow it, and you're also moving forward in your life, you're getting married, you want kids, you got a little house, maybe you want a little puppy, you've got to sell. So the question will be, how will you sell? But people will gravitate to you based on who you are and your passion and everything. But sometimes you still have to reach out. I want to tell you a quick story. I knew someone very, very well a number of years ago who I was talking about, or I was speaking with, and we were speaking about careers, and we got into financial planning. This was still when I was a financial planner. And it was very evident to me that this person was not adequately covered. And there were some questions around her health, little things. And through the relationship that we had, I knew that there was risk. And I knew that she needed critical illness. I knew it. I raised it incredibly gently, subtly, and never went back. Never went back to it. That person, not too long afterwards, was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. Not pre-existing condition, so she would have gone through all of the underwriting. She was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. To one extent or another, it's objective, that was on me. I believe that I'll speak for myself, had a duty, a responsibility, and an obligation to push her, not gently sell her, but push her into taking action around her financial planning. It's an extreme example, but I think what it does is illustrate the extremes. There's a financial plan and there's a product, and sometimes they marry, sometimes they don't. As in, sometimes you can have gentle conversations and have people come to you, and sometimes you need to push people to make decisions in their lives. Like when they're of a certain age, you might have to say to them, existing client, if you do not follow this advice, you will not be able to retire, or you will have to put your retirement out by 10 years. That's the reality. Okay. So Dirk is right, and I am right, and everything in between is right. Marrying, to use that word again, that with the approach is we have different approaches. You could be sitting at a wedding and you want to bridge a conversation. Or you could, for example, one of your strategies could be that you're setting up a fortnightly webinar on all things financial planning. Never product, never cost, never returns, because you're dead in the water. And if you compete with anyone else on that, you're cornered. And it changes. You win today, you lose tomorrow. But that's a strategy that works. You have a regular webinar, and you just keep inviting people. So that's another thing. You're on the golf course with someone. I've got a client who plays golf, but he doesn't want to pitch any of his golf buddies. So now what he's doing is he's setting up these regular webinars, and he's going, hey, you know what? Especially on the back of something someone says, he'll go, you know what? I run these webinars every 2 weeks. So come, don't come. It's up to you. And they always, or he particularly, always speaks about things that are important to clients, never about products, cost, or performance. So like sometimes he'll bring in an economist. He might speak about retirement. He might speak about, like Dirk, I remember when you used to be the guy with the repository of knowledge on retirement villages and estates on the East Coast. Like that, like stuff that's meaningful to clients. So that's a very subtle thing. Rob Veloza, the lawyer salesman of trusts. I don't know if you know Rob, but he built his entire business putting people in Balalaika Hotel and talking about, and he was very specific. He put business owners in Balalaika Hotel and spoke to them about trust planning. And he picked off from those. So it's a lot easier to do that nowadays because it's virtual and everything. But you don't have to have a direct hard approach. You can bring people. You can use communities and forums. If you can do neighborhood things so that you're well known. And when you're well known through community service and school things and neighborly things and charities and whatever work, you start to get to know people. People ask you what you do. They get to know you. And it's a long-term strategy that keeps feeding itself because people eventually come to you because you're that guy and you consistently show up. And then when they think about financial planning, you're top of mind. So depending on who you are and the strategy or strategies that you opt for, there is the kind of slow simmering approach, but there's also the let's stick the bacon on the pan and turn it really quickly approach. I've never used that before and I never will again. Someone's typing really loudly. Okay, cool. Where are we? So are we talking about strategy, about approach, connect, invite? All right. So now you need a plan. The strategy is all about the approach is all about the strategy, by the way, which means you've got to have your ideas. And Tim could probably talk to you about prospecting ideas in the digital marketing space all day. There are lots of ways of doing this. Just looking at Tim, because he's right up front on my screen over here, I've got one financial planning client who right now does nothing except send out a weekly newsletter. And he's been doing it every single week for a year. And so what happened was he left a large business. He's got a restraint. He actually moved city and he's rebuilding in a new city with new clients. As he meets people, he goes, you mind if I put you on my newsletter? 70-something million rand AUM in the first year. And he only puts out a newsletter every single week. Consistency is key. Also, the newsletter is very good. Okay. You need a plan. You need to know what you're doing every hour of every day of every week, and your calendar must reflect this. Prospecting is not a second thought. It is a calendar entry. It is part and parcel of every day, every week, every month, every year. And the time must be sacred. It's like you put a red flag up. No one can interrupt you. Tell your assistant, no calls are to be put through. You put your phone on silent. Whatever it is, whatever your strategy is, you support it with sacred time. The commitment is paramount. If you choose this strategy or these strategies, you commit. You absolutely commit, and you take action around these things. And to the extent that people almost think you're on a mission, like, my goodness, Dirk is on a mission. People have to see you committed to your strategy. Again, depending on where you are with your business. If you're going for 100 million Rand a year, people got to see that you're committed. If 10 million Rand a year is fine, then they see something different. You're consistent. One thing that's never changed from the time I started to eons before I started in sales generally is activity, activity, activity. The question might be, what is your activity? Because Shannon's activity could be very, very different to Cindy's activity. Very different. But depending on your strategy, you will know what your activity is. What I believe is important is that you measure that activity. So let me go, before I talk about measurement, I'm going to talk about something that's very important. Exactly the same as you work with your clients, right? Goals and FNA, however you want to mix it up. And FNA is effective. I mean, a lot of advisors go, FNA is the whole thing. It's not. To me, it's understanding where you are right now. So it's your current reality versus your future desired situational outcome or whatever it is. This is assets, liabilities, incomes, and expenses. You can put goals here if you want, but in the end, goals are where you want to be. It's the life you want to live. As a financial planner, let's understand the desired life you want to live, monetize that, work backwards, look at where you are, and do scenario modeling and everything to plan for that, right? Financial planning 101. Maybe 105 for some people, depending on how you started off. But that's the basic premise of financial planning. Goals, strategies, action. For you as financial planners, you also have lifestyle goals. You have a life you want to live. You're in this so that you can build the life you want. You have a passion for financial planning, but ultimately, it's so that. Everything's so that you can live the life you want. So understand your personal goals, go backwards. Personal goals, understand your personal goals, understand your business goals, and then build your prospecting goals to feed into your business goals, to feed into your lifestyle goals. Not different to what you do with your clients. But for you, understand that prospecting builds a business, builds a life. So get granular about the prospecting. So now if we understand that it's all about activity, always has been and always will be, what activity do you need to measure? Here's an example, your first and second meeting. So even if you are sending out a newsletter or running a webinar every 2 weeks, one-to-many approach, which I love, how many first meetings are you getting? By the way, what I love about a one-to-many approach is your first meeting's done. In many cases, your first meeting's done with 100 people. Now you've done one first meeting with 100 people, and then your second meeting is with those that you get from the webinar. But if you're doing one-to-one, like you're going out there and meeting people, you've got 100 first meetings and 100 second meetings. Okay, but imagine a spreadsheet. Imagine a spreadsheet or a piece of paper or a whiteboard on your table. You're measuring firsts and seconds. So you say, in order to hit my numbers, I need, let's just round numbers up. I need 10 first meetings in a week, and I need 7 seconds. So measure it. What does that mean? 10 first meetings in a week, that's 2 a day. 7 seconds in a week, that's less than 2 a day. So at the end of the week, and you measure this every day, of 2, what did I get? And you can actually even get great, like I'm going to have 3 today, 2 tomorrow, 1 the next day, and 3 the next day. Whatever it is. At the end of the week, you tally it. I got 8 out of 10. Okay, so I was going for 10. What does that mean? Going for 10 the next week? No, you're going for 12 because you are 20% behind your goal. Right? Manage yourself as if you were working for a business that managed you. Your team is sitting, you got a whiteboard up there every single day. What's your goal for the week? Break it down into your daily goals. How did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? What are you doing to make up for yesterday? Couldn't see this guy yesterday because his wife died. Okay, I'm very sad, but how are you making up for it? I'm exaggerating the point because it's a numbers game. It is a numbers game. And if you fail on the numbers, you fail on your dreams and your goals. because the numbers get the clients that build the business, that build your life. Exactly like financial planning. You fail your clients on their numbers, or they fail to commit to the plan, they don't live the life they want. So I've got a very specific template on how this works with the activity and measuring it with first and seconds and so on. And you can put other measures in there. The second thing is have a business prospecting pipeline. Okay, don't just have a new, because most advisors have potential new clients on their pipeline, have a prospecting pipeline, because we forget conversations we had with people. So you're chatting to someone, or you chatted with someone, and then you meet with them and you go, oh, what's your son's name? And he goes, you asked me this last time. You got to know who you're chatting with, what you spoke to them about. So my template pipeline is kind of name, surname, phone number, email address, maybe value of business if you want to put that in there. Notes, last contact, next contact, and by whom, because it could be ball could be in client's court. You can do this on a piece of paper, a whiteboard, a spreadsheet, or your CRM. But have a very clear idea of who you're speaking to and where you are in the conversation. I still use this, and it's brilliant. I look at it every single day, and if I didn't have it, my business would probably be half the size it is. I kid you not. Okay, this is for individuals, corporates, long-term conversations. The next point is hold yourself accountable, because nowadays, in my personal opinion, we are not being held accountable. That's the problem in my business, is I own it. So I have no one holding me accountable. The business, the consultancy business, I've got David Kopp. We hold each other accountable, which is great. David, what are you doing today? So we've actually got an agreement. Every day we go, this is what I need from you today. And what I needed from you yesterday, did you do it or not? And if not, what are you going to do about it? That's an agreement we have with each other. We hold each other accountable, and we're brutal about it. We're brutal because if we don't, we risk failing ourselves, our business and our own personal goals. And we can play games around it, like I did with, his name was Simon when I was at Sage, with the money in the jar. Play games, have a ladder like in sports, like, you know, I'm going for 10 new meetings this week. What about you? How are you doing? Let's put money in a pot. All right, let's play around a little bit. Digital versus virtual. One of the benefits of the era of lockdowns is that it made life so much simpler, so much. Until then, most of the financial services industry believed that they had to get in a car and drive somewhere to do business. I was partially digital from 2009 using Skype. It's a mindset. It's absolutely a mindset. But remember this, and I think everyone's embraced and accepted and sees the benefit and convenience of virtual meetings. But understand this, you need to replicate the in-person experience. So set up your virtual environment. Make sure that your picture is perfect, your sound is perfect, your background, your environment, like everything is perfect. I moved my office around, so this is temporary, but you know, it's a pretty background. I've got lights, because if I didn't have these lights, I would be in shadow. So I've got proper earphones, because it's all about the experience. It's all about the experience. I'm not going to go into detail there. There are lots of professionals, like follow Katie Holmes, or is that her old surname? That American woman who's intimately involved with the South African private financial planning profession. Right? Katie Braden. Follow her. Everything you ever wanted to know about virtual and video. All right, guys, with your permission, Dirk, I'm going to send you a document called Excuse Buster. So all the excuses we come up with and how to bust them for ourselves. You want an example? Let's bring it up. I don't have enough time. I'm under so much pressure. I don't know enough people. I don't know what to do. I don't have the gift of the gab. I don't have enough money. And I'm also going to send you a document I created to deal with objections. So the basic approach here is deflect with humor and acknowledge, agree, and creatively question. You don't have to be funny. It's an option. So we've got things like, I don't believe in life insurance or investments. I already have a financial advisor. My brother-in-law is a financial advisor. Guys, I'll give you these with pleasure. Okay. I spent a lot of time speaking to a lot of people to come up with these, and they are yours with the greatest of pleasure. Any questions?
Jason, I see Becky's asked if you had limited time, which resource would be the most effective? My opinion on that would be obviously the one that probably comes most natural to you. But yeah, I don't know if there's a definitive answer on that.
Yeah, so Becky, again, it depends on the person. What works for me might not work for you. So, you know, one of the craziest things I think I did back in the day was I cut a guy off in his Porsche, told him I loved his car and gave him a business card. I don't know if that's for everyone. He never called me, by the way, but I did it. And by doing it, it raised the bar. Like it just raised the bar. So if you have limited time, maybe the quick response to that is any of the one-to-many strategies, because you're at least sharing or communicating your value proposition with a number of people at the same time. And then you can, pardon the kind of crude description, pick off your clients from that audience. So like the regular webinar thing is an option. When my kids started at a particular school, I created a dad's group. So I just went to, as and when I had the opportunity, I just went to every single one of the dads in their grade, and now they're at a school with, I don't know, 200 dads. Lots of dads. The group's probably about 120 people. And I'm not prospecting anyone, but every now and then I put out a message. I'll go after drop off. Let's meet in Seattle for a coffee. And I meet people there. Yes, Shannon, I might have to bridge a conversation, maybe, but I'm getting in front of people. So again, the quick answer, if you don't have a lot of time, is a one-to-many strategy. And try to add value, because that maybe goes with what Dirk was saying about people picking up on your passion and your energy, is that no matter what you're talking about, it's who you are. And if they know you're a financial planner and you speak with passion and you're a good guy or a good woman, you come across in the right way, they might be interested in exploring working with you and reach out. There's definitely a divide between, do you need to be proactive or do you need to be brand aware or have people aware of you? So there's the passive and the active approach. I would call it that. The active is more salesy, but sell in the right way, as I've been discussing today. And passive is more, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to send my newsletter. I'm going to be on LinkedIn. I'm going to be writing articles. I'm going to be in the press. I'm going to build a following, and the formula should result in people coming to me. Okay. Anything else?
Anybody have any other questions for Jason? We've got 5 minutes left.
I wonder if I've got permission to share a screen.
Yeah, I think, Jason, if you're going to send those things, maybe send them on this group in the chat box or whatever, so anyone, or otherwise just share your contact details so someone can get hold of you if, whoever wants to get that info that you offer to send.
So, Dirk, can I send them to you? You've probably got a list that you can send out to, hey?
I'd rather you put your email address on there, let people contact you. Yeah,
okay. Hang on a sec, because
I'm playing secretary otherwise.
Because that'll
have a lot of time.
Sure, that'll probably be a number of emails. So I'm going to drop them over here. And I just drop them into the chat.
Sure.
I'm not very familiar with Teams. Guys, this is proprietary property. Please may I ask that you don't share these, okay? More than happy for you to have them, but please don't distribute them. That didn't work. How do I share a file? Let's have a look. Let me try this again.
Jason, while you're doing that, I mean, what's worked very well for us, and look, it's my situation is unique being in St. Francis Bay. But I've been writing articles every week, short 350-word articles in the local online paper, and then once a month in the local hard newspaper. And eventually what happens is people just get to know what you do. And a lot of what we write about is actually not about investments or returns or product or anything at all. And we're starting something now, which we're going to run quarterly, which is just a breakfast at one of the little restaurants, the brewery. Yeah, you have breakfast at the brewery, but you can have coffee. Where what we're doing is we're getting speakers in, but to talk about things which are not, because if you get invited to a retirement planning talk, they're going to tell you about the 1/3, the 2/3, tax rates, investments, all, quite frankly, all of that shit. And although it's important, people aren't really interested in that. I mean, we think they are, because it's important to us, because remember, we are the clients of the asset managers, we the clients of the life companies, so they impress on us the importance. And it is important. It's like if you go to a lawyer, the lawyer's got to know the law. If you go to an accountant, they've got to know how to do your books. But what I've realized more and more is the man in the street is interested about the more that human side of like what happens at that aspect of your life, you know, when you're going through those transitions and things like that. You know, many people, for instance, have children who are now all over the world. So like, how do they deal with that? So I suppose it's a bit of estate planning, but you make it a lot more human. And that's worked really, really well, because you're talking about things that people can relate to. Whereas when you're talking about living annuities versus a fixed annuity, like people really don't know what that is, and quite frankly, they don't care. They just want to be okay. So I think, you know, like anyone can be a product specialist or have 5 degrees. To be honest, ChatGPT does that all for us now in any case. So it's not that it's not important, but I really honestly believe that we've got to meet people where they are and where their concerns are, which is around them and their families. And if we have more of those chats, even in the kind of prospecting that we do, if we're running webinars or whatever we're doing, you're going to connect, because our business is about connecting with people. And if we can connect with people and they can, they feel like they can speak to us, that's what we want. You know, they're not going to come to us because, you know, I've got 1 more degree than Tim, or, you know, Alex got a higher mark in the exam. They're really not interested in that.
Yeah. And then maybe just one more thing from my side. I don't think I positioned financial institution consulting, the business I have with David, but what we do is help financial planning businesses to grow and scale. So yes, we've taken the prospecting content into the business, but it's really around building a business. So if you have an interest in building a business, or scaling a business, or taking your business to the next level, that's how we can help. You're welcome to reach out. I put my email address here. I can't seem to attach anything, so you're welcome to email me, and I'm going to send you those 2 documents. And hope they work for you guys. Thank you very much for being here and spending the time. Thank you for the opportunity for me to present my thinking.
Jason, thank you for your time. I'm sure it was really valuable. I think it's clear there's no silver bullet to building a business or getting clients, but thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know that you
Thanks,
do
Dirk.
this for a living as well. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, guys, it's 10 o'clock. Have a lekker week. Reach out to Jason if you need any more info. And yes, Mary, sorry, it says Maria.
It was great.
Great. Okay, thanks, guys. Chat on the WhatsApp group.
Thanks, Dirk. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for sitting, Dirk. Cheers in.